G20 presidency to climate change concerns. To discuss the salient points of President Murmu's address, I'm now joined by political analyst Sandeep Phukan. Mr. Phukan, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Right at the beginning of her address, the president spoke about her childhood memories of Independence Day, thus bringing a very personal touch.
That's right. In fact, right at the beginning, she recollected her childhood days, how as a young student, she would go with great excitement to participate in the Independence Day celebrations in her village school when the tricolor would be hoisted, sweets would be distributed, her heart would be filled with pride, patriotic songs being sung. So yes, it's indeed, she's brought in a personal touch in her address to the nation. And of course, each one of us will have our own set of memories, going through how over the years, how we have celebrated Independence Day and how we continue to look forward to these red letter days in our republic, be it January 26th or August 15th, how they would be occasions for all of us to reflect, to reconnect and to move ahead.
The president also spoke about our identity as citizens of India at the start of her address. She said that what we celebrate on Independence Day is the fact that we are part of a great democracy. In your view, what are the strengths of our democracy?
That's right. In fact, if you look at her speech, she made it very clear that irrespective of our caste, creed, language or region, each of these things give an identity. Our professions give an identity. The place where we come from gives us an identity. But above all of this, we have the overarching identity of being Indian citizens, our Indian identity. And that is what she focused on. That ensures that we are all equal citizens of India, with equal rights, with equal duties, with equal opportunities. I think these are very important ideals. It's a very important message that President of India has given, that we are equal before the eyes of law. We have equal opportunity. We have equal set of duties to perform as citizens of India. It's not just that as citizens we enjoy rights. We also have duties towards our nation. And she has reminded that being an Indian means that you are equal before the eyes of law, but just as you enjoy rights, you also have duties to perform, duties to fulfill, and each one of us is also entitled to equal opportunity. I think that's the key message. Everyone, no matter who you are, how high you are, where you come from, what matters is your identity of being an Indian citizen with these qualities of equal opportunity, of equal rights and equal duties.
While speaking about India's freedom struggle, the president spoke about many women freedom fighters, and then she also went on to elaborate on the importance of women empowerment.
That's right. In fact, there was a clear focus on women freedom fighters. Let me just give you an example. For example, I'm from Assam, and she mentioned Konaklata Borua, who was a young girl who died while trying to hoist the flag in Gauhapur police station. Outside our state, I'm not sure how many people know, but it's a very important message. Of course, she's mentioned a lot of other stalwarts like Sarojini Naidu, Aruna Asaf Ali, Sucheta Kriplani. But, it's a very significant message on the role of women in our freedom movement. As well as she mentions about economic empowerment of women and how that will go a long way in terms of empowering our society and also establishing the ideals of our freedom struggle. I think it's a very significant message.
India has the G20 presidency this year, a grouping which represents 2/3 of the world population. What contribution can India make to bring focus on the many global issues using its presidency?
I'd just like to take you back to her speech where she said that two things that stood out to me very clearly. She made it very clear that as the president, and as you rightly pointed out, this is a grouping, this is an economic grouping that represents 2/3 of the world. And India can actually shape the global discourse. With G20 presidency, India can make a very significant contribution in terms of decision making towards trade, towards finance, in terms of getting a more equitable distribution of resources across the world, also equitable progress. So that is the reason why I think she has mentioned that very clearly, because we are less than a month away when India will be hosting the G20 summit. In fact, we are barely a fortnight away from hosting the very prestigious event in New Delhi. And it's in the fitness of things that President Murmu has actually talked about India being at the forefront, where we can shape global discourse with our presidency, where we can talk about a more equitable progress. And it's a very significant event in our diplomatic calendar. And I'm sure that it's an important message from the head of the state that this is the direction that the government would like to progress as we host world leaders here in New Delhi.
The president also said that, and I'll quote her, looking at the present, we see that India has not only regained its rightful place on the world stage, but it has also enhanced its standing in the international order. So the fact that we are hosting the G20, do you think that it shows India's stature on the international stage and also strengthens our case for a place on the UN Security Council?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think be it Prime Minister Narendra Modi or External Affairs Minister Mr. Jaishankar, both of them at multiple fora, they have made it clear that it's high time that the international institutions like United Nations should reorient itself, should change themselves, their structure. We are the world's largest democracy. We are the most popular nation on earth, and our words carry a lot of weight. So in the international fora, if we don't have a seat at the high table of United Nations, then who else should? I think it's about time that the global powers realize that there should be a realignment of forces which is more representative. I think that's the message that President earlier on, when she talked about G20 presidency and India shaping global discourse, I think towards a more equitable progress, that's the idea that you cannot exclude from decision making at the high table a country that is the world's largest democracy, most populous nation. So it is our rightful claim to the high table.
The president spoke at length about Indian economy, which, to quote her, has proven to be not only resilient during turbulent times, but it is also a beacon of hope for others. She also said that India has converted challenges into opportunities. What, according to you, are the highlights and the reasons of our economic success and resilience when the world is right now going through an economic turmoil?
The president in her speech acknowledged that the world is going through a very delicate stage and a once-in-a-century pandemic that we faced in 2020, and the after effects have been a prolonged affair. And it's not just India. Across the world, we've seen whether it's the Eurozone, whether it's United Kingdom, US, all of them have struggled with different kinds of inflation, with stagnancy. There's no growth. So to specifically answer your question on what have been the highlights, I would say that first of all, we are a growing economy. We are among the fastest growing economy. After the hit that one saw, that one took immediately after the COVID pandemic, now the growth pattern has come back. So we are a growing economy, and as I said, that we are a large economy and huge market. So that is a sign of hope. The other sign is that even our agrarian economy, the agricultural economy, that has shown very positive signs. I think given these two, GDP and the growth in agriculture, given these two things, there are lots of green shoots, I would say. And that is what would have led the president to say that Indian economy has not only been resilient in the face of turbulence, but also it's a sign of hope. It's a beacon of hope for others, especially at a time when most other economies are struggling. Just the fact that you're growing is a very good sign.
The president did say that the government has succeeded in protecting the common people from high inflation. She's mentioned inflation. So she says that the government has succeeded in protecting the common people from high inflation while also providing a more extensive security cover to the poor.
That has been the argument of the union government as well. The recently concluded monsoon session of Parliament, several ministers spoke about the welfare measures, how they continue. I mean, they were started at the time of COVID when their incomes were hit, but pre-ration to people who need them. They have continued. So that acted as some sort of buffer from extreme economic shock. And they continue to provide comfort. I would say that that is a model that the government has come up with now, even though not all of them may need that, but it still provides comfort against inflation if you get certain benefits from the government, be it in terms of food grains or pulses or any other subsidized edible oil. They provide a lot of comfort from shocks. So that is part of the government's welfare politics that we've seen since 2020.
Talking about the government's welfare policies, the president said that present government has been expanding welfare initiatives for the needy and giving priority to the deprived. What are the major initiatives of the government that you believe have been very effective?
If you look at President's speech, what the President meant is that tribals should, while they should embrace their tradition. They should be proud of their tradition. They should also embrace modernity. So there are specific schemes that the government has brought about towards education, health. These are initiatives in tribal areas. So it's not easy to change long years of habit or tradition. So while you should stick to your tradition, but you should also embrace modernity. As I said, that specific key interventions have been in the areas of not only infrastructure, because that'll and opening up many of these areas, but also in terms of health and education. These are two very key important sectors where the government has been making intervention with the tribal population. And these are very, very significant policy interventions to also, that goes a long way in terms of improving our human development index, especially these two areas, education and health. So these are the two areas I would say where government's focus has been, other than of course infrastructure, because remember the government has long argued that it is because of lack of infrastructure that many of these tribal areas were cut off from other mainstream or mainland areas, and that gave encouragement to the left-wing extremism. The other day when Home Minister Amit Shah replied in the parliament, he actually mentioned that how left-wing extremism has come down over the years because of these policy interventions and opening up the area. Accessibility has been a very important part of government's policy initiative and intervention.
Very grave issue that not only India but the whole world is facing right now is climate change. And the president spoke about how we have faced extraordinary floods and drought at the same time. In fact, today we've got news from Himachal and Uttarakhand about the fury of rains.
That's right.
So her address called upon the scientists and policymakers to make efforts for the environment. How can India play an important role in tackling this issue and also provide leadership and guidance at international level?
We've already set a date for our zero carbon emissions. So that was done by Prime Minister in one of the conference of parties on climate change. And the Prime Minister has often talked about life, which is lifestyle for environment, adopting life as an approach to life, which is, cut down on your emissions and be in harmony, be in sync with nature. In fact, President Murmu also mentioned about learning from the tribal societies, how they live in harmony with nature in his speech. That is a very significant message, that it's not something that we actually need to learn from others. It's there. We just have to look inwards and look at our brothers and sisters who live in perfect harmony with nature, and what are the things that we can adopt. I mean, of course, we can't go back in time, but we can certainly take steps that reduce our emission levels and bring in a sense of being in harmony with nature.
At the end of her address, the president said that our constitution is a guiding document. She said, let us move forward with the spirit of harmony and brotherhood to realize the dreams of our nation builders. How important is this message from the president in the given circumstances in present day India?
I think it's extremely significant. The message, I would say that it's a very, very significant message. The message of harmony and brotherhood. The other side of this message is to shun any kind of violence, no matter what the provocation. Shun any kind of violence and return to this concept of being in harmony. We are a society with many diversities, but our strength has also been to live in harmony with all these diversities together. It's a very, very significant message from the president in the current context. The message of harmony and brotherhood.
Mr. Phukan, thank you so much for coming to AIR Studios and sharing your opinion on the President's address.
Thank you, Anupati.
You were listening to a discussion on President's address to the nation on the eve of Independence Day. The participants were Sandeep Phukan, political analyst, and Anubha Rohatgi, anchor. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of Akashvani. You can listen to it on our mobile app News on Air. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on Air Official. You may share your feedback about this program through email at airnsttalks@gmail.com or WhatsApp on 9289094044.
समाचार सेवा प्रभाग से प्रस्तुत है हमारा साप्ताहिक कार्यक्रम पब्लिक स्पीक।
पब्लिक स्पीक में आप सभी का स्वागत है। मैं हूं लवली